Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you are watching Boyd News. Want to thank you so much for tuning in today. All right, guys, got a major update coming out from Ukraine, and I have some information regarding the peace talks that took place in Istanbul, Turkey today between Russian and Ukrainian delegations. And apparently, the Russians are very worried about what happened yesterday. If you guys remember that massive operation called Spider's Web that Ukraine carried out targeting Russian airfields using FPV drones striking strategic bombers. So apparently, due to that attack, they're actually threatening to withdraw from talks now. So take a look at your screen here. Russia threatens to withdraw from negotiations over airfield attacks. A source in Ukraine's defense ministry says Russia is deliberately looking for mechanisms to delay negotiations, and Ukraine's spiderweb operation has affected the course of the talks. Okay, so Ukraine did this obviously to try to force Russia into peace, but now it looks like it could be having a negative effect here if Russia happens to pull out for these talks. And could Russia use this as a reason to pull out and not have to negotiate with Ukraine, as we know the Russians want to carry on this invasion and continue attacking Ukraine and potentially try to take them over at some point. So I want to show you guys this report today that came out, and also something that I showed you guys in our previous video today that could also be worrisome to the Russians, as maybe Ukraine might carry out another attack on Russian soil similar to what we saw yesterday. So let's jump on over here to mainstream news reports with Ukrainska Pravda 25. Moscow threatens to call off talks in Istanbul in response to Operation Spider's Web, source in Ukraine's defense ministry reported. You can see the date here, June 2nd, 2025. And it says down here, the Russian delegation has threatened to call off the negotiations in Istanbul in response to the Ukrainian Security Services Operation Pavutnia, which means Spider's Web, which resulted in the destruction of 41 Russian aircraft on June 1st. A Ukrainska Pravda source in the Ministry of Defense familiar with the course of the negotiations, and it says details here. The source said that the talks are progressing, but Moscow is deliberately focusing on minor issues to delay the process. There's definitely progress in the negotiations, Ukrainska Pravda reported, but the secondary nature of the issues that Russia wants to discuss indicates that they are deliberately delaying and looking for any mechanisms to do that in the course of the negotiations, the source said. Now, that's something we've seen from the very beginning. I mean, Russia does everything they can to delay this process. We know the Russians are not serious about ending this war. That is very clear to see that till this day. It also says here, additionally, the source noted that the recent Operation Spider's Web conducted by the Security Service of Ukraine, which targeted 41 Russian military aircraft, including strategic bombers and an A-50, has also affected the course of the talks. Yeah, that's something also that came out today. There was reports today of satellite imagery showing that an A-50 spy plane also reportedly could have been hit, as well as we had some pictures coming out showing damage to one of those planes. So not only strategic bombers were being attacked, but also possibly at least one A-50 spy plane was hit and possibly destroyed. It says here the Russian side clearly stated that there is a risk of disruption of any negotiations and continuation of hostilities because of such steps, the source said. However, the source said Moscow has not changed its approach to its demands. The demands were the same at the first meeting. First, withdrawal from the territory of 5 oblasts, Kursk, Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson. Only then is a ceasefire possible. The source also confirmed that Vladimir Benitsky remains the main representative of the Russian delegation, and he has full authority and is in direct contact with Russian leader Vladimir Putin. The position of the Russian side was as unwavering as during the first round of talks, but this time the Ukrainian side responded just as firmly. And this is the main difference. Ukraine's first deputy foreign minister, Suri Kilsitsia, was one of those who outlined all of the Russian positions with which our side, Ukraine, disagree, the source concluded. So we actually talked about what some of the demands were from the Russian side in one of our earlier videos today, so we've talked about that. But now quickly, I want to show you guys something real fast over here on X today. As I put out a video just earlier letting you guys know that the Russians were proposing a 2 to 3 day partial ceasefire with Ukraine, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy came out in an interview, and he basically said that that was idiotic to even try to propose that they've been calling for a 30-day ceasefire, not a 2 to 3 day ceasefire. They want this war to come to an end, not just a partial pause in the fighting and then continuing the war. So check out this here from Noel Reports. President Zelenskyy, the Russian delegation, I was told, it behaved a bit more calmly, but arrogance, well, it is what it is. Well, we'll see. Maybe a few more measures are needed before they start acting like decent people. Okay, so the reason why I'm pulling this up is because while Zelenskyy was in this phone call or interview, whatever he was in earlier today, he stated this, that maybe a few more measures are needed. So does that mean that he's threatening that maybe they're going to carry out some sort of attack similar to what we saw on their strategic airfields? Maybe something else might happen inside of Russia. Makes you wonder if Ukraine has more up their sleeve and more planned here. Maybe they're going to carry out some sort of other operation into Russia that's already been previously planned. So it's something to think about. And the Russians appear to be very worried about this. And that's also possibly why they're thinking about pulling out of negotiations here. But I think ultimately they're looking for any reason to try to delay the peace talks here, as we know that Russia's ultimate goal is to take over Ukraine and destroy them and possibly absorb them back into Russia as well. So just some information coming out regarding these talks today that I wanted to let you guys know about. But let me know what you think about all these details down below in the comment section. That's going to be it for today's update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. With that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.